From Studio 304 in the KCOC Student Center in the heart of Kaufman, Texas, it's the Wednesday Night Show, starring the ministry staff. Tonight, join Doug, Suzanne, and Chris, along with performances by KCOC and the SonShine Band of Actors, special guest Cheryl Johnson, and a weekly update news report. And now, here they are, your hosts, the Kaufman Church of Christ ministry staff. Welcome. We are so glad to have everybody with us tonight. So glad to have you back. We had a great kickoff last week with our premiere. We really encourage you to go check that out if you missed it. And we are so glad that you're here for week number 2. So glad to see everybody back. We got a lot of great stuff planned for tonight that you really don't want to miss, and really just a whole lot of great stuff going on all over the place. Really want to encourage you, if you haven't already, to like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on our Facebook page, and that way you can get notified when updates, announcements go out. You get posted when new content comes out from week to week. You'll be up to date when new stuff like the Wednesday night show posts, when church updates post, when our live stream posts on Sunday mornings. Keep you up to date with everything going on here at the church. If you're a guest with us, we live stream our Sunday morning worship services at 10:30 a.m. right here on our YouTube channel and Facebook page, and we would love to see you join us for that as well. Doug is currently leading us through a series called Seeing 2020, Lessons We're Learning from the Past Year, which has been a great series, and I really encourage you to go back and watch some of the past week's sermons and get caught up on that series if you haven't already. It's really timely series and perfect because for the first time, hindsight is literally 2020. Yes. We have a great show for y'all tonight. We have KCOC and the SonShine Band of Actors performing later on in the show, and special guest Cheryl Johnson sharing our memory verse for this week, and so much more. Y'all stick around, don't go away. Welcome back, everybody. We have a great night ahead. But before we get started, we also had some great times last week.
We did.
And so we want to check out some of those pictures and videos that were shared.
Aubrey and Trace, y'all did a great job with the Goliath. Check out these Goliath pictures.
Yes.
Trace really got psyched and taking out Goliath, and so we're going to enjoy that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Those are great. And in case in short, really getting into it with his slingshot. That is intense.
Nice arm there.
Oh yeah.
I think I saw in the comments that Polly Adams won the battle between Johnny and Polly at their house. So apparently there was a lot of fun had by people of all ages who were taking it to the next level tonight, though. And we want you to be sure to stick around for our game that's going to happen here in just a little while.
Oh yes, for sure. And I believe that we have some winners for the trivia challenge. That was a pretty intense battle of wits.
It was impressive. There were lots of people texting in their answers to the trivia questions in the comment section, getting warmed up, and then really the phone lines got slammed for that final question.
Oh yeah, and if I believe we had a 5-way tie for the win.
They all came in at the same time, and so we just decided, you know what? Cheap and fabulous prizes for everybody.
Just like Oprah.
That's
like,
right.
Everybody gets a prize.
Everybody gets a prize. So here are the winners from last week. Trace Kearns, the Melvin family. They texted in as Team Melvin. So family, if you want to if you're with multiple people in your house, you want to do it that way, that worked. Rocco and Brody Robinson and Aaron Shepard all texted in their correct answers. All came in within the same time frame. It was actually absolutely incredible.
That's incredible. That is awesome. The question, if you missed it, was for how long did David reign as king? And the answer to that is 40 years.
That's right.
We had several more that got it right. But again, Trace and Melvins and Rocco and Brody and Aaron Shepard, they all got their answers in first. So what was their cheap and fabulous prize, Doug?
Their cheap and fabulous prize was that they all got their choice of a Sonic gift card or a Starbucks gift card.
There you go.
So you never know. You never know. It could be different this week.
Yeah.
So be ready for the trivia questions that are coming here in just a second.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of fun for sure. And we will have another chance to win, just like Doug said, later on in the show. So y'all be sure to stick around for that. Comment, share with us your pictures, videos, anything that you do. If you participate with us throughout the show tonight, make sure you share those with us. And maybe you'll get featured on next week's show.
You never know. You never know. We have a great show ahead tonight. And to kick us off, y'all put your hands together for the KCOC and the SonShine Band of Actors.
All right.
Yet again, the people of Israel went back to doing evil in God's sight. Again, forgetting all that God had done for them and all the ways he had rescued them and provided for them. They began to worship idols and turned their backs on God. So God allowed the Midianites and the Amalekites to take over their land. The Israelites' crops were destroyed, and they were forced to live in poverty and starvation. This went on for 7 years. One day, the angel of God came to an Israelite man named Gideon and said, "God is with you, mighty warrior. Go save Israel from Midian. I will be with you." Gideon was shocked and confused.
Is this some kind of joke? Bro, I'm from the weakest clan, and I'm the smallest, bro. How am I supposed to save Israel?
Gideon had God perform several miracles to prove that this was real. Then he called together all the troops and built a mighty army. But God said, "Your army is too big. They will take all the credit for the victory and forget all about me again." God told Gideon to send home anyone who was afraid. Over half of his army left. But God told Gideon that he still had too many, and told Gideon to take his army down to the stream and have them all take a drink. God said if they put their face down to the water to drink, God needed to send them home. But anyone that cupped the water in their hands and lapped it up like a dog could stay and fight with Gideon. Gideon was left with 300 men to fight. He gave them all a trumpet and a jar with a torch in it. Gideon told them to do as he did. During the night, Gideon and his 300 soldiers surrounded the Midianite camp. Gideon blew his trumpet and broke the jar covering his torch.
A sword for God and for Gideon.
And his 300 soldiers did the same.
A sword for God and Gideon!
The Midianites woke up and were terrified and confused and started running around and killing each other because God had confused them. And Gideon and his 300 soldiers defeated the Midianites and Amalekites and saved Israel because he listened and obeyed God, and God was with him.
Chapter Thoughts with Doug Perry.
Gideon arrives on the scene of Israel's story in a time when Israel was led by people called judges. They're not judges like you and I think of judges that like sit in a courtroom. Just think of these people as leaders. Their stories can actually be found in the Old Testament in the book of Judges. And during Gideon's time, Israel had done evil in the eyes of the Lord. And they were being oppressed by a people called the Midianites. And the oppression of the Midianites was so great that Israelites were incredibly poor. So poor, in fact, that they called out to God for help. And God sent an angel of the Lord to Gideon to call him into service. In Judges chapter 6, it tells us that the angel came and found Gideon, and his first words to Gideon were, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." And Gideon has this great response. He says, "Excuse me, my Lord, but if God is with us, why has all this happened to us?" Remember, they're being cruelly oppressed by the Midianites. Why has all this happened to us if you're with us? Which turns out to be one of the questions that people still ask when bad things happen to them. So the angel responds, "Go in the strength you have and save Israel from Midian." But Gideon comes back with, "I can't save Israel. I'm from the weakest clan, and I am the least in my family." And then the Lord says, "I will be with you." The conversation goes on for a while. Gideon asks for a sign, but eventually he agrees to lead the people. And this is where the story gets really interesting. God says that Gideon has too many people to fight against Midian. Can you imagine? After all the work that it took to get Gideon to agree to be a leader in the first place, at this point now, God suggests that he dwindle down his army because it's too big. Never in the history of battles has an army general looked out over their troops and said, "We have too many soldiers." The more soldiers, the better is really how they think about it. But God is making a point. So the army is narrowed down from 32,000 people to just 300. And the way that God narrows them down is by having them drink water and watching how they lap it up into their mouths. How strange is that? Then, with those 300 people, Israel defeats the Midianites, not with swords or spears, but with clay jars and trumpets. And there are two deeper thoughts that I want to explore in this story. The first one is this: God chooses people that no one else would choose. Over and over and over again in the Bible, God calls people, he uses people, he nudges people into action that think that they're ill-equipped and incapable. And over and over and over again, they make this enormous impact when they allow themselves to be used by God. See, the thing is that Gideon isn't capable by himself. Gideon is capable not because of Gideon. Gideon is capable because of God. And the thing that makes Gideon capable, that tells us that Gideon is capable, is this line in the story: "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." When God speaks those words into Gideon's life, Gideon may have been from the weakest clan and the least in his family, but he had God on his side. And the fact is that you aren't capable because of yourself. You are made capable by the strength that God provides to you through the Holy Spirit. If you're feeling weary today, know that God is on your side. Battles aren't won by our own strength, but by God's power. And that leads me to the second deeper thought that I want us to talk about from this story. And that is that God often does the unexpected, and God is always there, present with us. Gideon, he thought that God had abandoned Israel. He asked this question: why is all this stuff happening to us if you're with us? Gideon thought that God had abandoned Israel because they were suffering at the hands of the Midianites, when the truth is that God never left Israel. Israel had turned their back on God. God is always present, even when we don't see it. And part of what happens in this story is that God reveals himself to Gideon. Gideon doesn't see it, and then he does. After all the questions, he finally believes. And this story, I think, is a reminder that when God is present, it changes everything. Gideon was a mighty warrior, not because of his own ability, but because of God. Because of God's presence and might and power. And we too face our own battles, armed not with trumpets or clay jars, but with God's presence. Because of God's presence, we are mighty warriors. You are a mighty warrior because of God. Because of God's presence and might and power, everything in your life is different. And today, my hope is that we will know, all of us, that we have been equipped by God to face the obstacles that come. That we will rest in the assurance of knowing that God has made us capable to handle anything that comes our way. And today, may we hear God say to us, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Those are deeper thoughts from the story.
It's a Bible Trivia Challenge.
Well, good evening and welcome back to this week's Bible Trivia Challenge. Yeah, to be quite honest, I really wasn't sure that any of y'all were going to come back after those crazy questions we threw at you last week. So, although I do have to say I was pretty impressed. You got me, you threw me, you impressed me. Right there, you did it. How many of y'all were able to answer a lot of those questions? A lot of people typing them into the comments down there. Of course, it didn't matter, it didn't count for anything. But I was impressed so you got that going for you. So, this week, we've put together some more questions, dug back into the catacombs of biblical wisdom and history to find some more doozies for you. Now, I'm going to warn you, this week's story, it's a pretty big story, and I think most people know it, but it's not quite as commercialized as David and Goliath was, so you may not have heard it in quite some time, so you're going to have to dust off that old thinking cap and really think back to the last time you look at this story. So it's going to be a little bit harder. So just like last week, I'm going to let you warm up a little bit, tune those thinking caps right on up. So we're going to start with some easier questions. Again, these won't win you this week's cheap and fabulous prize, but you can still comment below and show off to everyone how much more smart you are because you knew the answer and they didn't, or you knew the answer quicker than they did because they had to Google it. Cheaters. You got to know it in your noggin. You can't just Google the questions here, all right? You got to find these on your own and know them. All right. So, we have some pretty easy ones here to start off with, and we'll work our way up to this week's doozy of a question that's going to win you that cheap and fabulous prize. So, the first warm-up question is this. It's an easy one, just to toss it out there, a little lob to you to get you warmed up, knock the old dust off of the Gideon story. What offering did Gideon present to the Lord while under the oak tree? All right, so this is way back at the very beginning of this story. The angel of the Lord comes to Gideon. Gideon is there. He's talking with the Lord, and God is laying out the plan to him. And Gideon says, "Hold on, just a second. Let me go get you something." And he runs off, and he gets an offering, and he brings it back to the Lord. What offering did Gideon give to the Lord? Type it down in the comments below. You got it? Got it all typed in there? All right, here's the answer. It was a young goat and some unleavened bread. We read about this back in Judges 6:19, back in the beginning of Gideon's story. He brings this sacrifice of a young goat and some unleavened bread. So, question number 2, get those thinking caps all warmed and tuned up. What happened to the soldiers of Gideon who lapped water from their hands? All right, so they lapped the water up like dogs, but from their hands. All right, so the other people, they just stuck their faces down in the water and just sucked it right up. So, but these people lapped the water like dogs from their hands. What happened to those people? Again, this one doesn't count for anything. Type it down in the comments. Show off how smart you are to everybody. Just another warm up. Here we go. The answer is those people were chosen to fight against the Midianites. That's in Judges 7, 5 through 7 is when Gideon's going through this whittling down process because God keeps telling him, you got too many. And Gideon's like, what are you talking about? How can you have too many? But yeah, it's a crazy story. It's all part of God's plan. God's plan. He's got it all figured out already, whether we believe it or not. But Gideon trusted in God, and it all worked out for him. Question number 3. Now, this is the last warm-up question. If you're not tuned up and ready to go after this one, I can't help you. So, what objects did Gideon and his army use to defeat the Midianites? All right, so Gideon gave them these objects to use before they went into battle and defeated the Midianites. So what objects did they use? Type it on down in the comments. Remember, this is the last one to get you all warmed up for that doozy of a question that's coming up next. It could win you the cheap and fabulous prize. All right, so the answer to this one, last warm-up question, the objects that they used to defeat the Midianites was trumpets, pitchers, or jars. We'll accept both, but it doesn't count. And lamps or torches, depending on your translation. So they had their lamps, their lights covered up with these jars, and they blew their trumpets, and they broke the jars, and they yelled, and the Midianites just killed themselves. Crazy story. So all right. Here we go, that final question, the one that we've all been waiting for to win you that cheap and fabulous prize this week. Now again, don't go and post this down in the comments. This is the one that counts. This is a real one. You have to text this answer in if you want a chance to win the prize. And just like last week, just a little hint for you. Go ahead, get out your phones, open up a text message. I'll wait for you. All right, you got it? All right. What you're going to do is you're going to open up that text message. You're going to text to this number, 469-770-3007. That number is right down here magically at the bottom of the screen. So you're going to text this number and go ahead, just like I said last week, and type your name into the message box. But don't send it yet. We don't need your name. We need your name and your answer. We got to know who it comes from so we know who to deliver that prize to. So now that you're all ready to go, I've got you warmed up, tuned up, ready to go. All you got to do is figure out the answer to this week's question. So this is the question for this week. Could win you that cheap and fabulous prize. Are you ready for it? Got your cellular devices all ready typed in? All right, here we go. How many volunteer soldiers did Gideon have initially? All right, so how many soldiers showed up when he put out the call? Those initial volunteers that showed up, how many soldiers did Gideon start with? We know that God whittled it down to 300, but how many did he start with? Again, text your name and that answer to 469-770-3007. And thank you all for tuning in to this week's Bible Trivia Challenge. And now we're going to take it over to Suzanne for this week's game.
Welcome back, everyone. Tonight we have a fun game for you to play at home and to demonstrate. We have these two great volunteers, Doug and Chris. They're going head to head in this challenge. For this game, you need a pan or a bowl and 2 cups of water for each person. You're going to fill your pans with the water. Go ahead, boys. And they're going to lap up as much water as they can, just like the soldiers did in Gideon's story. All right. And I'm going to set the timer for 30 seconds. Oops. Oh. Okay. All right.
You're going down.
Here we go. On your mark, get set, go. At the end, we're going to measure. measuring cup. And it looks to me like we have a clear winner, Chris. I do see a lot of
I did spill a little bit.
spillage.
All right, here, hold on. Here we go.
Still, Chris wins by a landslide.
I did spend most of my growing up days under the water, so
You did? All right.
He was well prepared for that.
Been choking on water for a long time.
We
so.
hope you have fun doing that game at home. And tell us your stories and send your pictures.
Oh yeah,
That's
definitely
right.
want to see pictures and videos of that.
Did anyone do better than Doug and Chris?
Did you beat? How much did you have left there?
Half a cup.
Half a cup.
You
Half
could
a
definitely
cup.
do better than that.
And mine,
You can't even
immeasurable.
measure it.
Immeasurable. So, milliliters there. So
He's hydrated.
there you go. We have a lot of great stuff still ahead, so y'all stick around.
From Studio 2B, KCOC Center, it's the Weekly Update with Jackson Goodreader, Curtis Interruptus, and roaming reporter Oswald Biddenswald. And now, the Weekly Update.
Good evening. I'm Jackson Goodreader.
And I'm Curtis Interruptus. These are this week's top stories. Coming up this weekend, there will be a special time during the 10:30 worship service on Sunday, January the 31st, to recognize Merle Sims and her 30 years of service to KCOC. As she moves into retirement, we want to celebrate her well and honor the work that she has done over these 3 decades. The time of celebration during the 10:30 worship service and honoring her will be followed by a drive-through celebration at 1:30 in the afternoon, Sunday, January the 31st. And we want you to be there to celebrate Merle. People now are questioning, what will the state of the office be without the supervision of Merle Sims? And the question is a great one. What do you think?
Chaos. Chaos, Curtis. Pure chaos.
I think it's very possible.
In other news this week, the ratings are in, and the Wednesday night show apparently has moved into that #1 rated show spot on the KCOC network.
Unbelievable. In another story, parents can now breathe a sigh of relief this week as starting next Sunday, February the 7th, children's worship will be expanded to include a new class for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. Students will be dismissed during the sermon, and they will have an opportunity to have a special class designed just for them. More details will be coming soon, but we want you to be looking forward to that, and we want your student to be looking forward to it as well. Regular children's worship will continue.
Wow. In a similar story, starting next Wednesday, first Wednesday in February, the student ministry will be resuming their meetings here at the building as well.
Jackson, sorry to interrupt, but we have a breaking story here. It seems that celebrations have erupted in the streets.
Oh my goodness.
For more on the story, we're going to take you live to reporter Oswald Biddenswald, who is on the scene now. Oswald, can you tell us what's happening out there?
Yes, Curtis. Celebration erupted in the streets as the news broke about the return of Wednesday night gatherings for the student ministry. As you can see, thousands of junior high and high school students broke into the streets, immediately collided with an already amassing group of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade parents who are already in the streets celebrating from the earlier news of the expansion of children's ministry to now include that group of students as well. It was really just the perfect storm as these two cells collided and erupted into celebration. Officials are speculating these celebrations could last long into the night, possibly even go on for days. From the streets of Kaufman, I'm Oswald Biddenswald. Back to you, Curtis.
Oh my, it looks like it's getting crazy out there, Oswald.
Yes, be careful out there, Oswald.
And finally, in a continuing story, we want to remind you that we are in the midst of a 40 days of prayer as a church. We want you to be a part of it, and we're excited about the work that's being done in regard to prayer for our nation, for our church, for our communities, and for each other. We're thankful for all the people who participated. It's not too late to join in. That's all for your weekly update tonight. I am Curtis Interruptus.
And I'm Jackson Goodreader. welcome to tonight's segment of Ask a Minister.
Oh, Ask a Minister.
Yeah.
Well, in case you don't know, from time to time as ministers, we get texts and calls that people are curious about their questions and they want to know, can you help us with some of life's deeper questions?
That's right. This week, our questions come from our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade class.
And our first question tonight comes from Savannah Parker. She asks,
Hi, my name is Savannah Parker. I'm in 4th grade. And my question is, why does God forgive us when we do bad things and sin?
That is a great question, Savannah, and I'm sure that that's a question that many of us have asked ourselves from time to time.
Absolutely.
So God loves us and wants to be with us. That's how He created us in the beginning. We were one. We're in the garden. God is coming down, walking with us. We're together with Him. But then sin enters the world, and we become sinful because of the sin that's in the world. And because of that sin, we're separated from God. But that does not stop God's desire and longing to be with us. And He has such a great love for us and such a desire to be with us. We learn in John 3:16, He sent His one and only Son to die for us, and that sacrifice is what pays for our sins and washes us clean. It forgives us so that we can once again be together with Him.
That's a great answer, Chris. That's a great answer. I hope that helps you, Savannah, as well.
Yes. All right, our next question comes from Max Gomez, and he asks this.
Hello, my name is Max Gomez, and I am in the 5th grade. And my question is, why does God love us, and does doing good things make God like me more?
Max, my man, that is a phenomenal question. And again, one I'm sure that many of us have asked ourselves from time to time.
Yes.
Why does God love us? And does God love us more the more good things that we do? Let me start by saying this. Love comes from God. And the Bible actually talks about in 1 John chapter 4 that God is love. So you could say that God is the source of love. Or maybe say it this way, that without God in the world, we wouldn't even really know what love is. Because God's in the world, love exists. It's a thing that we know to be. And so God's love is something that comes out of God because it's God's nature to love. God loves us because God created us. And just like a good parent, right? The love that a parent has for a child doesn't change because of what we do. And in the same way, God's love for us doesn't change because of what we do. God just asks us that in response to His love for us, that we love like He loves. So because we know God and because we've been loved first, we share that love with other people.
Good answers and great questions. Some really deep questions there. So really good. So thank you all for joining us for this week's episode of
Ask a Minister a Hard Question.
Yes. So now let's jump over to Suzanne for our memory verse of the week.
You did a great job last week on the memory verse, and we have a new one for you this week. And here to share it with us is Cheryl Johnson.
Good evening, y'all. I'm going to share with you our memory verse for this week. It's from Proverbs Chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths.
Great job, Cheryl! Thank you so much. Y'all practice memorizing this verse and then post it or share it with us in a video of you reciting it. I hope you have a great week.
That's all we have for y'all this week, guys. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Again, a special thanks to KCOC and the SonShine Band of actors. That was a great performance. And for Cheryl Johnson for sharing a memory verse this week. Thank you so much. Work on those memory verses. Send us a video of you reciting them. Post them. Post pictures, videos of y'all participating in the games and activities from tonight's show. We love to see those. Maybe we'll feature them next week on our show. Thank you all to everyone who helped make tonight a great night. Really hope that y'all tune in next week as well. Remember, we're going to post some comments up on the screen as we close out. Really encourage you to go through those discussion questions on your own as a family with friends, but really dig in deeper to tonight's thoughts on the story of Gideon, and just dig in a little bit deeper on that in your own personal study. We hope tonight was a blessing for you. Thank you all for joining us. Y'all have a great night. See you next week.